Welcome to In the Zone. I'm the guy with the name on the screen, Craig Zimmerman. It is edition number 46, and we've got a special guest here that we've been trying to corral for many months, Mr. Paul Dingeman, the other side of the table here. Welcome, welcome. It's been a long time since we wanted to get you on here because you're on here in your show talking about other people, but we want to know where Paul Dingeman started and where little Paul Dingeman grew up.
Well, I was brought from God by a plane. No, that was the first joke we did, and we still have it in there. I was born and raised in Detroit, Michigan.
What hospital?
7 Mile and Livernois, 6 Mile and Livernois area near University of Detroit, and went to a little Catholic school called Jesuit, and then up the road to 7 Mile to the University of Detroit High School, and then from there went down to St. Joseph's College in Rensselaer, Indiana, which is south of Notre Dame and down by Lafayette.
Okay.
So that's where I got my start.
So now, growing up in that part of Detroit, do you have a recollection of going to, I'll use the term, going to Hudson's? Because that was always
yes. Oh, God, yes. In fact, there was a thing on television on PBS the other night showing Christmas at Hudson's downtown, and it was a phenomenal fantasy world of just acres and acres of toys and things along those lines, and that was cool.
Now, a lot of people that have remember those days, did you take a streetcar down or?
Took a bus.
Were you able to go on your own?
Yeah, I was, eventually, and I'd take a buddy with me or something like that. And that would have been in the 48, 49, 50 area.
Okay.
And so we were,
Those were special times in the sense
of...
Yeah,
we go down 2nd Avenue.
Yep.
2nd Avenue in Detroit, and get down there and spend the day and get on the bus and come home. That doesn't happen anymore.
If you had $1 or $2, you were good to go, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah. A good day.
So you went to college out of state.
Right.
And then came back and got involved in what business?
Well, I started selling stuff for people. I sold for American Can Company Dixie cups, and then they shipped me to Akron, Ohio, and I would call on wholesalers and vending companies to sell them Dixie cups. Then I found somebody came up with another opportunity for me to go to work for Wyandotte Chemical, and moved me to Columbus, Ohio. And again, I was selling stuff. But during that whole time, my interest was not in the product. Mm-hmm. I mean, I did it, but my background from early on, 8 years old, 9 years old, I wanted to be in broadcast. And you've talked to so many people about that people have been influenced with them.
Sure.
I never had anybody that said, gee, you've got an interest. So I went and did other things. And so now today, that's why I got all these kids around me from digital media places.
Sure.
I love to push them because I didn't get that push.
Yep.
And I think I would have started in the industry much earlier than I did. So now I'm 28 years old and I'm selling, and everybody says, oh, you're a great salesman and all that kind of great stuff. That's not what I wanted to do. So I left everything and came back to Detroit and went to Specs Howard School of Broadcast Arts, probably his 2nd class.
Okay.
And he then placed me in Charlotte, not Charlotte, but Charlotte, Michigan, 17 miles southwest of Lansing, where I was the morning man and the only salesman.
Sure.
And I took home $99 a week. Do you know how much that is? That's a lot of money.
You probably had a car and an apartment.
Oh, I had an apartment. Didn't have an apartment. I had one room.
Okay.
But that's where I wanted to be. And after like 4 or 5 years of that, the general manager, a kid by the name of Ed Christian, who went on to own 100 radio stations, Ed said to me, I'm going to fire you. You can't stay here. I said, what do you mean? I love it here. I'm on in the morning. And he said, no, you're out of here. So I came to Port Huron, went to work for Gene Umler at PHM. Then I ran into my, who turned out to be my wife, Mary Ellen, And she said, "You're not making enough money." But I said, "I love what I'm doing. I don't care."
So you met Mary Ellen right in this town of St. Clair.
St. Clair.
Okay.
She owned a little store called Mary's Gifts and Linens in the mall, and I was selling advertising. So, and her mother said, "He's a wonderful boy," and she went, "Oh, I don't like him." So in any event, I ended up at WCAR in Detroit, which then eventually became a country station, WCXI.
Yep.
And worked there for a number of years, became the national sales manager there. And then somewhere...
Now, let's explain what a national sales manager is at a radio station, because a lot of people don't know. I know, but they don't know. So a regular sales rep or regular sales manager goes up and down the street and sells to a real estate company or a car dealer and these type of people. But national sales manager is sort of a step above that does what?
Well, you're calling on Coca-Cola, you're calling on, the major accounts.
Yeah.
And you get a little bit of travel in it, and the contracts are much bigger.
Sure.
They're much longer term and that kind of good stuff.
Yep.
And so we were doing fine. And the mayor at the time here and I still lived in St. Clair, so I commuted every day, never left St. Clair.
And you also sold advertising for probably some no names and then a few big names at the country station.
Oh,
Dino
at
Day?
CXI?
Yeah.
For Dino? Yeah, we had dealerships, car dealers. Dino was one of the few personalities
Sure.
that I ever have worked with in my life, and it was absolutely amazing to see a personality walk into a room and people just light up.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd be with this guy in the car 2 minutes before, and I go, we'd be talking about it, and the door opens and
The lights are on.
The lights are
right.
on. It was just amazing to watch. So we were doing that. I'm lost my
And
thought
then,
there.
so a Dino Day, for some people they may not recognize, he wasn't your average just morning guy that came in and you sold advertising the same as everybody else. He brought an audience.
Yeah.
Therefore, the cost of that went up proportionally.
Right. So when we were selling at the beginning of CAR, when it was still just a radio station, we couldn't sell any commercials at all, and we were selling them for $2 and $3 a spot, and we were making 20% commission.
Right.
Then when Dino came in and we switched to country, his prices went up to about $100, and we were making like 2% commission. So that's the way life is.
Yeah.
At that same time, there was this new thing coming in called cable, and the mayor here at St. Clair at the time was a fellow by the name of John Sawyer, and John said to me, "You must know everything about cable because you're in radio," which obviously doesn't make any sense, but I said, okay, fine. So they started a cable commission, and we interviewed various companies, and we ended up with Heron Cable, and in the early 80s, wrote the first contract, and then and they were going to give us all sorts of stuff, which they never did. Come up to the 90s, and we said to them, as a city, we're not going to negotiate with you until you get the stuff you supposed to give us back in the 80s. So that's when we started the channel here, CTV, Community Television.
Yep. And so you started back in the mid-90s.
Yeah.
We started doing football in about 99.
Yeah.
And from there it's gone on to, football, basketball, a little bit of baseball and softball.
Yeah.
Volleyball once in a while.
And I think your aforementioned Dave Scheel was the guy that got me to call you and have you come and do the game. And you were doing it with another fella.
Now, Jerry Bissett was doing it with Jack Dragmiller.
Jack Dragmiller.
On the radio station.
Yes.
And I think Dave was helping. Dave was doing something with W Dog when they did football games. Yeah, that whole thing, yeah. So it goes back many, many years.
Yeah,
that really goes back to doing games at Ward Cottrell Field before East China Stadium became a thing.
And here there was a fellow by the name of Jeff Westrick, who was the head of DPW, and I would give him one camera and a microphone, or and there would be announcers downstairs.
Right.
And I don't remember all the personalities that had been on the air for St. Clair, but Jeff would be up on top, and we'd throw a wire over and bring it in the window to plug in the microphones to to the camera upstairs, and Jeff would freeze up there
Oh,
in the winter.
Yeah.
But he would shoot every Friday night.
Yeah.
So
It's also amazing when you look at it from a technology standpoint.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you had cameras that were on your shoulder with a battery pack that was this big. Battery pack, if you were doing a football game, probably last you maybe a half.
Yeah.
So you brought like 3 of them with you in case you needed them. And now you've got this little battery
yeah.
that's in a little camera, and it'll
Yeah.
last you a week.
Or you use your phone.
Yeah,
Use
exactly.
your phone.
So you start Channel 6. Was this an idea in the beginning to take you through retirement, or you didn't no idea?
No, I just wanted to do it. The CTV Community Channel 6 was put together by Tom Shorkey, superintendent of East China Schools at the time, Pat Sullivan, the city manager here in St. Clair, and Mike LaChance, the city manager down in Marine City. And the 3 of them realized that this probably would be a good tool to communicate with the residents. And so we got together. The city and the 2 cities got franchise income from Comcast to support it.
Yep.
The school did not get franchise income, but they financially did support it.
Sure.
And they saw the value of it. Subsequent to that, we have added St. Clair Township, we have added East China Township, we've added Cotterville Township, and I think that's it. I think that's everybody.
Yeah.
So we currently provide to the public meetings, all the public meetings, which are gavel to gavel, and there's no editing or anything else,
Right.
for the city of St. Clair, the city of Marine City, East China Township, and Cotterville Township. And those meetings are the primary thing.
Public, yeah.
They don't get preempted.
Right.
They play. Then we've added over the years multiple coverage of East China schools.
Sure.
You do the Marine City High School football and basketball. We've had various crews do St. Clair High School and football. And now this time of year, like in the spring also, we record a lot of stuff at the Performing Arts Center.
Yes.
The Marine City St. Clair High School bands, choirs, and the great concerts are the elementary schools with the little
yeah,
kids.
yeah,
Those
yeah.
are great stuff.
Yes.
So that's the kind of coverage we provide 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Yep. And you'll do you know, little things that maybe some people don't get out to see, but they'll
Parades.
see them on Channel 6. Christmas parades in both towns.
Memorial Day parades.
Memorial Day summer festival parades. Somebody who wins a state championship, you go do that parade.
yeah,
You know,
yeah.
so it certainly covers a lot of the East China School District events.
Yeah.
So
And we are fortunate in the fact, for us, our coverage area goes from Davis Road on the north to Broadbridge Road on the south, from the river to 94.
right.
And anybody that's got Comcast cable can watch us there, or now they can watch us on YouTube. We've got about 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, and so they can watch the shows anywhere.
Sure, anytime, any
But
place.
we've always had the theory that we were the last thing that people would turn to.
Yeah.
Not because they'd be watching 247 or ESPN or
Right.
something else. So we've taken a program, a football game, and we run that 6 times a day
Right.
for a couple days, because you never know when people are going to be clicking in. And maybe they'll catch it at 2 o'clock in the morning, maybe they
Right.
catch it at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. But it gives it an opportunity, because our product is local, and you don't necessarily tune in at 8 o'clock on Thursday
See, right.
to watch whatever.
Right, right. Well, I noticed that with the ability to put it on YouTube, it
Yeah.
makes it so much nicer because people can watch when they want to
Yeah.
watch. And
But I need their money from Comcast.
right, correct.
Because our finance, our budgets are generated by people who watch Comcast cable.
Comcast cable TV.
And
yeah.
anything else is
Foreign.
foreign.
Exactly. Any mentors in the business?
I was thinking about that, when we talked about doing this. It's a funny thing. My wife has been supportive of it. I've had a young man by the name of Bruce Holliday with me since '94.
Yeah.
He was a student at St. Clair High, and he's now the principal of St. Clair Middle. And from '94 through now, Bruce and I have been together, and I guess
Yeah.
we're mentors to each other.
Yes. Yeah.
And he knows the technical side of this.
Yep.
I know maybe the selling side of it, and we put the two thoughts together and mentor each other.
Sort of a yin and yang thing, right?
Yeah. Fight like hell every once in a while.
And you know, you look at a small scenario like this where you've got a bunch of volunteers that are doing different things, and gosh, Bruce has been at it, you know, all this time. It's amazing.
Yeah.
And it's also amazing in that whenever people come in the studio, they're pretty impressed because of what it used to be over in the old school was this dungy little place. And you know, you give Bruce the idea of, okay, we need to add this, and Bruce takes it and he runs with it.
Right.
You know, we got lights up in the ceiling. We got everything wired. You can run 3 sets off of this one room here.
I find the money and he does the product.
Right.
So.
And he has no problem going online and finding it, right?
No, he finds it.
Yes.
A lot of eBay stuff built this place.
Yeah. It's also impressive from the standpoint that, you know, years ago it was sort of fragmented just because of the way that it was in the back of a school. Well, now we're in the basement of St. Clair City Hall, but it's not an afterthought because you've got a control room that runs it.
Right.
Ryan Wiley's in there directing right now. Everything's wired in directly for this show, for the shows, and you can run it all from there. And then when you go to the stadium, you've got a trailer, and that trailer's, a lot of people don't see that. You know, I think about it every year, but we need to take every beginning of the year, I think we need to take a camera in there and show people, because it's pretty impressive during a game. 6, 7 people.
Oh yeah, 7 people at least. We end up with like 11 or 12 people working to do a football game.
Right.
And
3 cameras.
2 announcers.
2 announcers.
A director, audio person, graphics person.
Graphics.
Replay person.
Yeah.
So it's like NBC, but a little smaller.
Yeah, a little smaller, exactly.
Right.
How about the family? Tell us a little bit about the family.
I had 2 older brothers, and they're both deceased. Jack was up in Traverse City, Dave was in Detroit, and they were older.
Okay.
I was the baby of the family, and they were 10 and 12 years older than I was, so they were sort of on their way.
When you growing up,
got coming along. So that's about that. Mother and Dad mother was from Canada, Dad was from Detroit, an old family name in Detroit. And so yeah, that's about the size of the family. So then I met Mary Ellen, my wife, when I was at PHM selling advertising and on the air. And we've been married 40-some years, 43, 45 years.
You better get it right.
Yeah, I better be right.
What's her maiden name?
Mary Reeder.
Was she born and raised in St. Clair?
No.
Okay.
She was from Detroit,
okay.
too. Okay. And she was a widow. She had got married young, and her husband, they were only married about a year, and her husband died of leukemia. And so being the salesman that I was, I thought she had a ton of money. Because she was a widow.
And you were wrong again?
I was wrong again. So.
And your daughter, Katie?
Katie is, we adopted Katie in '84, and Katie is now a doctor of sociology at the California State University in LA, teaching, a tenured professor, and we're proud of her. She got a little 10-year-old, so that's coming along great.
Time flies when you're having fun, right?
Well, that's family stuff.
Okay. Any defining moments here at Channel 6?
At Channel 6?
Yeah. Or anywhere else.
I think, well, one of the recent defining moments was when we were asked to leave 201 North Riverside by that fellow that was involved with the St. Clair Inn, and it actually turned out to be a blessing in disguise.
Yeah, at the time you were sort of, a little disheveled.
We'd been there for 20 years.
Yeah.
And like anybody, when you're someplace, you're comfortable with it.
Right.
And it was difficult and painstaking to get out of there and come over here. But Mike Booth, who was city manager at the time, was extremely supportive and allowed us to take and get a budget together over a 1.5 to 2 year point and build this studio. And this is well thought out and,
Yeah.
and very purposeful. Behind us, behind this studio, is the city of St. Clair council chambers. So we have the same kind of equipment, cameras and everything behind us
Yep.
that controls that, all coming out of the one control room. So you've got the studio on one side of the wall and the city council on the other side of the wall. Good thinking,
Yeah.
good practice.
Works
Good
real
practice.
well. Works real well.
And the city of St. Clair has been very supportive for all the years. We also have a smaller studio, smaller control rooms, not studios, but control rooms in the city of Marine City and East China Township, and as you stated, at the East China Stadium and at the Performing Arts Center.
Yeah.
So we have equipment around to be able to cover the things we need to cover.
Yep. One note that I'll say, I'll just put it out there, we can always use camera people.
Oh, yes, volunteers.
So we can always use volunteers 12 months of the year
Yeah.
because you've always got something going on, whether it's the boat races in July or a
Yep.
parade in November, December. So we can always use camera people.
We've been very successful in finding students from the digital media class at RISA. And Bruce taught that class for a while. His wife taught that class for a while. We've generated a lot of people. Some of the people that have come through here have been very successful. Tom Brenner, who is now cross-country coach, started with us doing play-by-play, then went on to Central Michigan in radio and television, graduated there, went out to San Francisco, went to Channel 4 in Detroit, then went to NBC Sports in San Francisco and covered Harbaugh out there.
And he was there for all the championships.
Yeah, there for all the championships.
Yeah.
Won an Emmy.
Yeah.
And then he decided the pressure, like I was talking about earlier,
Right.
got to be too much, and he came back to St. Clair, and now he's a wonderful coach at St. Clair High School.
Cross country.
Both in basketball and in cross country.
Yep.
Another fellow named Brandon Kling. Brandon worked for us numbers of years ago. Brandon is now a producer at MSNBC in Rockefeller Center. And I saw his dad here yesterday, talked to him, and Brandon works so hard, so much overtime, that he travels all the time. And his dad said to me, he's got one more continent to go before he's 40 to complete and say, I've been on every continent.
Wow. Yeah.
So and he started here. Many more of those people. Bob Wheeler was one of the early people who did play-by-play sports for us and did everything else, had his own sports show. So yeah, we've had a lot. John Carter, a lot of people been through. So.
Appreciate you sitting down.
Yep.
You know, we got one checklist off the bucket list for this year. We got to get that guy that has the office across the hall from you. We got to get him in here. Mr. Boyer.
Oh, Mr. Boyer.
Yeah.
Oh, we'll try.
We'll grab him.
Yeah,
We've got to grab him, get him in here. You got a good
And we got to get you. I'm going to take the street.
Turn it around?
Turn the chairs around.
Okay, we can do
I won't
that.
be quite as good as you are on this show.
Okay.
You do a good job.
Thank you. In case anybody wants to recommend anybody, the telephone number will be at the bottom of the screen there, 586-707-5811. And so for Paul Dingeman, I thank you for coming by, and we will see you next time.